everyone, we're back today, and I was trimming all the quilts I have ready for binding, and then I realized I should show you how to trim your quilt to get it ready for binding. As you can see, this quilt still has all the raw edges and the binding and everything, the batting, or the backing and the batting. And today we're going to show you how to trim this. It's a very simple method. All you have to do is understand two definitions: square and true. True is the quilt looks square, but it's not necessarily square, or it looks like a straight line, but it's not necessarily a straight line. Square, however, can be proven mathematically, and usually it's the 90 degrees, but we'll get more into this. This is one of the charity quilts I'm doing, and I'm expecting this to be a utility quilt. So I'm going to aim for true, but hopefully come up with square. Okay, come on a little closer, I'll show you how this is all done. Okay, so we are at the cutting table. I've got my cutting mat underneath my quilt. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to smooth this out as best I can, nice and flat. And I'm going to take my largest square ruler. Now, I'm going to try and aim for square, even though this is a utility quilt. And I'm going to line it up so that the edge is running just along here and just along here. Now, if I have to do a little bit of wiggling to get this to line up as square, that's okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my first cut along my square ruler. There we go. And anything that's too small to go in my string bins, I just clip off. It's too narrow, so I'm not gonna keep it. I'm just gonna throw it out. So now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move up. I'm going to move the quilt up as far as it'll go, and from this line that I've started here, I'm going to line up my longest ruler, which is a 24-inch ruler. And I'm going to try and get this to line up as flush and as straight as I can up here where it's been cut by the ruler. And yes, I have a little more wiggling to do. I wonder if I go like this. And sometimes you have to wiggle it just ever so slightly to get this to line up and look square, right? Or look straight. This is what I'm saying. You need to understand the definition of true and square. And there's another piece that comes off. And we'll just do this again. We go right to the end, or right to the bottom, as close to the bottom as we can. And I want to make sure I'm not cutting underneath. Now I've just left this off the table here a bit. So I'm just going to line this up the best I can and go to about here with my work. So I've lined that up best I can, and now I'm just going to trim this off just like this. All these little bits. I used to make dog beds, and then I used to leave them outside for birds' nests and stuff like that. Then birds did take it. However, I was told that the thread gets wrapped around their little feet and then they can't feed or fly. So I don't do that anymore, and I don't make dog beds anymore. So you want to line this up along this edge where it's been cut, and then you want to line this up best you can. So now I've got square, and there's one piece, and now I'm going to cut this way, but I can't cut that way, so I'm hoping I'm not in your way too much to see what's going on here. So now I want to cut my square out. Yeah, and my husband just sat there, he said, "Where's your klutz glove?" He's right, I should be wearing my klutz glove. So anyways, now we're going to turn it. We're going to turn it like this. And yes, I'm putting on my klutz glove. So now we're just going to line this up Now we're on the long edge. And I'm going to get my longest ruler. And just move this up just ever so slightly. I hope I'm not knocking the camera when I'm bouncing around with my mat. Okay. So there we are. Get my klutz glove on. Alright, so you want to make sure if it's, remember you're going for true. The corners need to be square, right? If you're, now this is a little bit fatter piece, so I'm going to leave that because that would end up in a string. If you were putting this into a show quilt, you would have a chalk line. You would put a chalk line down first to see if you could get it square. But like I say, this is a charity quilt. It's going to be used and hopefully very well loved. And we're just going to go like this, get this lined up. And sometimes too, you've got a little bit over. So you can either skinny this back or pull this out to pull. You kind of like make it fit along your ruler. There we go, oops. But still keeping this edge along there. So, I'm just gonna go one more. And now you see the back of this. It goes from skinny to fairly fat. Well, I would keep this string and just pull off this batting. Okay, for my string bin. I would keep it for my string bin just because one cannot have too many strings kicking around the house. Okay, and now the next cut. Like I say, the only time you really pull out your square is when you're doing a corner. But then your corners then are at least square. Now, I only want to go to about here with my long ruler because I want to make sure that corner gets square, right? So here we go. We're going to just go down here and I'm going to tug, just a little tug, just to move this over just a hair. There we go. And now we finish off with another square. Now, I was a little generous on this cut, so I've got quite a bit to line up here. So I can just line this up, but I want it to be square. So let's go up just a hair. There we go. And excuse me while I try and get the rest of this. Uh-oh. And there we are. I'm going to finish cutting the rest of this for you, and I'll be back when I'm done. Okay, so we're at this cut edge is where we first started, and this is where we ended up. So I wanted to show you. We just line this up the best we can on both ends, you know, to make sure that it lines up along where we've been cutting. And then we make sure we get as straight as we can. And just push this out of the way. And there we go. And that's it. Your quilt is now fully trimmed and ready for binding. Okay, so this is how we trimmed our quilt. And it turned out really quite lovely. This is one that we did where we did just a simple stitch in the ditch. And it's, I pieced 10-inch squares together, and then I, you know, made the backing just out of all 10-inch squares. So it has kind of a very eclectic feel to it. You know, there's even some Christmas prints, there's Southwestern prints and batiks and everything in here. So I hope the child that gets this quilt really likes it. So what we're going to do next is we're going to do binding, and I have binding to do. These ones are also trimmed now and ready to be bound to be given to the charity. So I'm also going to show how to put on labels. Like we have a little label that we're doing for our charity, right? It's a little label for the Edmonton Modern Guild. I'll show you how to put those in as well when we're doing our binding. But this turns out really quite quick. I was really impressed on how fast you can cut through like several of these. I think the only one I cut through was this one. The rest of these I cut through this morning, and I was like, I need to stop because you need to see this. So I figured, okay, so it'll be fine. It'll be fun. I'm looking forward to binding these and giving them away. It's one of these things that my girls have more quilts, that they so many quilts they can survive an ice age with them and their families. So it's like, yeah, they don't need quilts for me anymore, so I'm doing charity stuff. So that's how this sewing room rolls right now. So if you have questions or comments about this, like I say, you try your best to square up your corners, and that's the best way to do it, is use your largest square ruler. But I mean, the reality is you're trying to have the edges look true. You know, like they kind of have to look straight. And it'll look better once the binding is on. It will look straight. It won't wobble and weave and all the rest of this. So I hope you have an absolutely splendid day ahead. I hope you have nothing but fun in your sewing room and your sewing machine, and everything just works out right for you. So I hope you have a great week, and we'll catch you on the next one to bind these quilts. Bye! Have a great day! If you have questions about what you saw in this video, or you have ideas for content or something you want to see us do, please put those comments in the description below. But also, while you're there, like, share, and subscribe with your friends. That would really help us out. Okay, I want to thank you and have a great day.